Hi everybody, I'm so excited to present to you a new chapter in Is This It? And that is This It Talks. It's a new format that I'm trying where we will be speaking to multiple people in the same setting instead of just a one-on-one interview. And we're going to be having much more free-flowing conversations around a specific topic. So let me know how you like this format. If you do, if you don't, depending on this, I will make more or less of them. And enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Anybody watching, this is a new project of Is This It podcast, Is This It Talks, where we are here, a bigger group than usual, and we're here to talk about specific topics. So today's topic is going to be running from all these amazing people and experts in their own way, in their own field, that are connected to running, and in combination to mindset. So all of the talks are going to involve an emphasis and an aspect of mindset and how that relates to the given topic. So today, it's obviously about running and mindset. So we're going to share our own stories, our own experiences, our own knowledge that could be useful for anyone that's pretty much loving running, interested in running, is a pro, is an amateur. It doesn't matter. We're going to cover a lot of grounds. And yes, the special thing is that we're also going to flip it and see how mindset ties in with all of that. So thank you guys so much for joining.
Thanks,
I would love for you to introduce yourselves briefly in what you do, who you are, and how is running a part of your life.
Definitely.
Carmichael?
Okay. So I'm Carmichael. Running has probably been transformational in my life for mindset, but also like physical transformation as well. I'm an entrepreneur, like tech entrepreneur, and now endurance athlete as well. And yeah, that's me.
Amazing. And you run all over the world.
Yeah. I train in Kenya, probably St. Moritz a bit more now, and do races all throughout Europe mainly. A little bit. I did one in America.
So really cool.
Slowly new to the journey, but yeah, the goal is to train in Africa, race in Europe pretty much, and in America. So.
Amazing. Okay, we're going to go into everybody's story also deeper, but Fletch, what about you?
Yeah, my name's Fletch. Well, my mum and dad call me Anthony, but don't call me that unless I'm in trouble. But I'm a CEO and founder of One Track, which is basically a support system for people who run, where we used to wrap around a team of people to help outsource some of the complexity and admin of running. So people who come in, we've got busy lives, we talked about earlier on, busy lives, a lot of things going on that they need to juggle, running being one of those things that they love to do, but go away and Googling a million different things rather than just going straight to the experts. That's kind of what we solve. But I've been involved in the fitness industry now for 20 years. I'm an exercise physiologist as well, so I love the chemistry of exercise. But I'm also previously a competitive athlete myself in Thai boxing. So that's where I kind of bring that as with my mindset. That's kind of where my coaching comes in, is when you're getting to the beginning of a start line, all those fears and all those insecurities and doubts and all that kind of stuff creep in the same way it would be for any other sport. So that's kind of where my own personal journey with running came in.
Love it. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So yeah, I'm Nikki. I started running quite late actually, like early 30s was sort of my long distance stuff, and I used it actually having a bit of tough time at work. It kind of did help me, like running to work always gave me like sort of a little bit of a buzz, and so it was quite late that I got into it, and now obviously I'm running 9 marathons in 9 months this year. For my charity. It's been a cool journey. It's hard like managing all that running with my work, because I'm not changing anything with my work, so it's 1 a month. I'm 6 down, 3 to go.
Well done.
But yeah, it's been like really good, and obviously running's been a massive part of my life, like I'm at Equinox heading the PR program there, which Fletch used to do.
I remember.
Yeah. So obviously, working with running every day in the treadmill, helping people outside doing run clubs and stuff like that. So yeah, running's been a big part of my life, and definitely the mental side of it, having to battle with not being able to train properly for each marathon that I'm doing each month is definitely a challenge. So yeah, with the mindset side of it, I feel like I've hit a few new places this year for sure. So,
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being here and for sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience, giving us your time. I guess I need to just mention a tiny little thing. Obviously, I'm the host of Is This It, but my own relationship with running has been fairly recent. I never liked or even considered running throughout my life. It was during COVID that all the gyms were closed, and I just thought that one visit outside that I can do, I'll definitely do it and I'll use it, and I'll just started running. And since then I kind of love it right now. So I've been doing the Equinox runs in the gym, which are great, the interval runs, and then just kind of outdoor park running. And that's actually a great way that I've found that I can exercise anywhere in the world, even if I don't have a gym. So that's been a great thing for me. And last year I ran my first half marathon, and I want to run my first marathon in Rio next year. I've said it now. It's going to be embarrassing if I don't.
You got this.
Yes. But I'm actually, they haven't opened their register yet. I keep checking and waiting, and I even emailed, but they're like, wait. Anyways, so that's that. Okay, well, guys, I want to this is going to be a really free-flowing thing. So whenever you have ideas or things that you want to add and share, just please free to do so. I think I'd like to kind of kick it off by asking an open question of, why do you think we do run? Why do people run these days? I feel like it's changed a lot, like now versus 100 years back, when people were either running away from burglars or serial killers, or they were athletes, professional athletes, and people weren't running for leisure that much, right? Whereas now it's become this huge thing of pleasure. Like people love to do it. They just do it in their free time.
It started in the 1970s, was the first boom. So there's a book called Jogging by a guy called Jim Fix. Not Jim will fix it, unfortunately, or fortunately, but he kind of wrote this book that kind of kicked off the jogging scene, and ever since then it's been growing. So this recent boom is off the back of ancestors of booms of booms of booms. And ultimately what we see is that the brands are putting so much money into the advertising, the role models, the positions on high streets and so on. It's bringing it to the forefront. And I think people, especially through lockdown, realize that it isn't actually as intimidating as they first thought.
Yeah.
It's being able to control the environment to go out on your own, do whatever works for you. Being forced into that situation, whereas like I used to hate running. As a prime example, was ironic, it's my full-time job now, but it was actually how I thought about myself when I was running that I hated. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel fast. I didn't feel
Because you
fit.
had some sort of stereotypes of what you should be like.
And my clients were texting me and they were going, "Are you okay? you look like you're really struggling there." I'm like, "It's just not my sport." But then all of a sudden, then you start to change your opinion of it and yourself. You slow down and you enjoy it more, and then all of a sudden it becomes part of your life. So I think this recent boom is off the back of not only the seeds that were being laid previously throughout all the 70s, 80s and 90s, but now all the big budgets coming in and starting to make trainers a big part of the running scene.
Yeah, so isn't it kind of Nike that started this whole thing in a way? Because before them, their whole idea, I remember from reading Shoe Dog, was to, I guess, revolutionize how people were walking, or what was their apparel like in day to day? Because before, people were wearing shoes, like hard shoes, like in leather, and no one was just wearing sneakers in the daily life. I don't remember what years were they, but Nike kind of revolutionized that, and then they started that trend of people just wearing sneakers. So do you think that maybe impacted?
I think Nike would like to think they made the first big impact.
Okay.
I think every company on the planet would probably have that same opinion about themselves. But Nike basically initially started supplying shoes from Japan. That was the whole story. The Tiger shoe came through, so they weren't the first one to create a new style of trainer. Bowerman created the waffle shoe off the back of it, and they started making their own shoes, but they were basically an importer at one point. And so, no, they weren't the initial kickoff, but I think they did start to make it a fashion thing where the best runners were wearing their shoes. And all of a sudden it became a trend where, oh, well, if they're wearing it, I'll wear it too. And it became almost like a little bit of a collective, being part of a club. And that's what we see across the whole world is, oh, well, they're doing it, therefore I'll do it too. So now you can see all the shoes, all the brands are buying athletes to make sure they're seen.
But you don't have to wear the best shoes to be the fastest runners. So Born to Run, that book, you read it, that's like all about the people that barefooted running.
Oh, Vivo Barefoot is exploding now, that brand.
Yeah, but I mean, they were tribes. It was the Tarahu Mana. So they would catching their food and running up hills and stuff like that in bare feet or very like thin sandals. And then a lot of the ultra runners came over to kind of run against them or with them, even in sort of relays. And yeah, they were just as fast as them, if not faster. So yeah, it's in terms of the shoes, it's kind of like, it's all about where you start out, right? I mean,
Interesting.
in terms of, I always find actually when I run, so I tried running on the treadmill with just thick socks. And I feel that when I do run like that without trainers, I feel my body so much better. So for instance, if I have slightly tight on one side, I think it really brings it out when I'm like kind of more flatted. I know obviously like with the shoes now you can get them tested and obviously doing orthotics and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think that book's a good one to kind of read to kind of see the people that did it raw, you know, and and how they were able to kind of go.
Well, do you think it's okay for everyone to run that? I've been scared from the popular notion about the joints, the knees, the joints. Is it available for all of us?
Prep from young, right? It was kind of the culture. So
I think it takes time to build that. Like, because I mean, like I spend a lot of time in Africa. You see kids are walking around barefoot, like you were saying, from age 5, right? So they're not like their foot is like genuinely.
Yeah, they're good for it. I wonder if we're good for that. Like, should we be doing that or no?
No, because we didn't do it from the start, right? I
think we've kind of like a lot of the time we forget this word evolution comes into the mix. So these pockets of the world, they've been doing it for generations on generations on generations on generations, and their actual body has adapted in order to create that sort of safe environment to do that. We've evolved to sit down on a tube and...
Well, I guess we have shoes that... We've evolved to sit in offices, not. But I guess we have those brands like kind of Vivo Barefoot and all of those that are the intermediaries between, like they're trying to bring you more away from the sole but closer to the ground.
They're strengthening the foot though. Like, even Vivo talks about how you're just making your foot stronger, but it's not like...
it's not as extreme, obviously, as taking off your shoes.
And I don't think they want you to take off the shoes. That's why they're providing the thing, right? But I think it's just something that, like, even in running, like, your foot strength is good. So, like, I lift in Vivo, for example, right? Because I think it is making my feet a bit stronger. But it's also just helping with injury prevention, more so. Right?
Interesting. So all these super thick soles in all of these running shoes, you know how they do the heel? So is that... Shouldn't be the case?
Because you said Nike, right? So like they've made this super shoe now, which like is obviously like I've got them. So I don't know, my hands up. But yeah, like where does it stop? Do you know what I mean? It's the sense of like where we're gonna just like put motors on the back of our feet. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of I think going back to that, it's like you definitely don't have to do that. Not everyone has done that from the start, and there's obviously a middle ground as well. But I think with the hype of running and stuff like that, and obviously Fletch was talking about that, like kind of taking the market and being like, we're the best, we're the fastest, and we put it on the fastest runners, people feel maybe a little bit of pressure to kind of go behind that, because especially when they're focused on their times and they want to go quicker. But yeah, it's definitely not the only way, right? And
what we're seeing, some of the research is coming out recently, is that the people who are just starting out and who are on the couch to 5K journey, for example, actually they could benefit from more cushioning, because they are 100%. Deconditioned to the idea of going out for a run, and they're being told now suddenly it's a kilometre, it's 1,000 steps they're taking at 3 to 5 times their body weight every step.
It's a lot of
impact. Yeah. So if they can take a little bit of that force away with the shoe, it allows them to do more, it allows them to get fitter, allows them to enjoy it more. There's a definite use case for these shoes coming in and helping offset some of that load early on. And then obviously at the top end, there's the performance gains, the running economy stuff as well, 100%. So my entire journey with running started with comparing barefoot running versus shoe running.
Oh, stop. Tell us.
I could maybe get into some trouble. But what we found was that there was...
When you say barefoot, you mean barefoot?
Well, we looked at forefoot running versus heel running, which is kind of the argument for barefoot.
Okay.
So the whole reason why people... This is 2008 now, so people were going towards barefoot running because of the forefoot strike, being less impactful, less shock, so on and so forth. What we found was that actually few people propensity for injury increased when they forefoot strike, and a few people propensity for injury increased when they rear foot strike. And therefore it becomes a very individual conversation. What shape is your foot? How do you shock absorb? If you've got a really high arch, do not run barefoot on your heel because you're lacking the shock absorption at the heel, therefore you're going to shunt it to the knee. Or if you are really high arch, you're actually going to be probably more forefoot anyway, in which case the shoes doesn't really matter. Day to day, you're not wearing your Nike Vaporflies walking around the house doing your breakfast. That's when you probably are wearing slippers, barefoot and so on. Your daily living is not in the shoe. So actually the impact of the shoes might not have as much of a detriment to our performance as we might think because we're not wearing them all the time.
So if I'm going dancing in
Don't
a
wear your
festival for 6 hours, what shoes am I wearing?
I mean, fashion and function don't always go together.
I'm talking to preserve my lower back and my joints. And
High
I'm
heels,
dancing
definitely not.
6 hours.
High heels, definitely not. I mean, we know that now.
When you say high heels, because I'm a woman, obviously we're talking about sneakers.
It depends on what so if you're looking at sort of more stilettos, that's
Because,
definitely
like, for
not.
example, I have Yeezys, right? They're like this thick, the
Yeah,
sole, the heel sole. Is that good? Is that bad? That's not
No,
good.
it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
It's fine. What we tend to look at is more the heel drop. So the difference between the height of the rear foot and the forefoot. So the steeper that angle, the more the heel is elevated above the toes. What we see is people who wear that like all day, every day, is actually we get a slightly shorter tendon, Achilles tendon, which then they then suddenly drop to a flat shoe. Now we're getting things like Achilles tendonitis or plantar fasciitis, where
Oh my gosh, my sister had that. Okay.
it's not always cause and effect. So some people can get away with murder and be fine, but a lot of people that go suddenly from quite a steep drop to then suddenly flat, the mechanical changes take time. So if you've always worn Yeezys and that's what your foot's adapted to, then I would say wear Yeezys.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is if I'm going to be running a marathon, I better check my specific condition to make sure that I'm wearing and doing what is best for my body.
Correct. We always do a biomechanical analysis on people before we recommend anything. Let's look at the foot. Let's look at
As
the
always,
pelvis.
one size does not fit all.
One thing you shouldn't do, which I did in my last marathon, is don't always listen when they say you can wear normal running shoes as well as trail shoes.
What's a trail shoe?
So trail shoes obviously is for all terrain, so it's got grip on the bottom. So naturally they're not quite as fast, they don't have as much cushion. Some of them have more cushion than others. But I did the Uppsala, like 6 Lakes, that was my last marathon. And yeah, I mean, I read through the description, I did it with my mate Andy, and he had trail shoes, and I'd used trail shoes for the Snowdonia trail marathon, and I realised there's a lot more pressure on your kind of ankles and stuff like that, because I'd felt it afterwards. So I knew I'd find it easier to run in my cushion shoes. And they said, yeah, you can wear normal shoes or trail shoes. Literally, we were going through the jungle for 3 kilometers at the start, my shoes just fell apart. So the back of my...
Oh, literally?
They fell apart. So literally, my ankles were at a 45-degree angle, each of them, because the back came off on here from the cushion, for about 36 kilometers on both of them. And honestly, Andy just dragged me through that marathon. Like, it was what happens then is because your body has to then adapt to running like that, and then probably, again, people that know more about it, it just feeds up into all your legs, right? So you're just feeling all this pain and just like, yeah, it was...
So you should have had trail shoes.
I should have had trail shoes, yeah. But they said you could wear normal ones, and I couldn't believe it, because it was more trail than the Snowdonia one, like the start of it. There were bits of it you could have run in normal trainers, but
I didn't know shoes just fall apart like that.
Yeah.
That's what they made. That's how the Nike made them now, in the sense of, I mean, I don't want to change, but what?
It's fine. It's all...
They're fast.
You're going to get a shadow band now.
Yeah.
You're going to get shadow band.
They're going to give you a discount now, aren't they? Obviously, the made for the flat and the road is, you've got that extra cushion at the back, which kind of helps you and propels you. And what's that thing called in the middle? The
fly plate.
Fly plate.
Carbon plate.
So if you're going to take that into like rocks and stuff like that, it's because it's just all cushioned. It just rips apart. Yeah, so it's only made for that terrain. So that's one thing. If you're going to do a trail one.
Well, I haven't even checked it, but I feel like it's not a trail, the Rio one.
I'm sure.
Normal payment.
You'll be all right. Yeah.
If you got to do it, you might as well do the most scenic one. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, Rio would be cool, man.
But okay, so what about the chemical side of it? Like I would love to hear your guys' input if you have it. So there's just something really special about what happens in our body and in our brains when we run, because I don't know about you, but I feel amazing. Like I run and I know there's something about the visual part. So this lateral eye movement that happens when you see things when you run past things, that somehow influences you and it puts you in a new mind frame every time that you keep seeing new things. So it's like, that paradox when you walk into a new doorway, your brain resets because it's a new environment. So you that's why you keep forgetting about, like you go into a new room for something and you forget when you get there because your brain resets. So when we run, there's that thing that happens all the time. So I always get new ideas. I always get inspired. I feel good. I know there's the whole chemical aspect of it. So can you guys talk on that a little bit?
I mean, like chemistry of the body is kind of like my passion, and nerding out too much has got me in trouble before. So I think the big thing is running is an all-round experience. So you get the neurology, you get the physiology, there's the feedback from the floor to the brain to the floor. I think there's What
do you mean by that?
So ground reaction force from the ground feeds the muscles and tendons with load, and that then goes back to the brain again and then starts to make connections with what that load was, how quickly was it applied, how can we get better at that next time, what muscles need to contract. That part of the brain is the motor cortex, but also the lower motor neurons and how they feedback. These feedback loops have been created all the time. The body is mostly designed for movement, and ultimately that's where it excels, is providing that movement, both chemically and mechanically. So with regards to the neurology, I'm not so hot on, especially when it comes to the ocular surface of the eyes and all the neurons around there, but it kind of makes sense with regards to especially that spontaneous thought. Steve Magnus wrote a book called Peak Performance. Highly recommend it. We've interviewed him a couple of times with bits we're doing. And he talks about this whole like autonomous mindset you get into. You don't have ideas when you're really thinking about them. You have an idea when you're making a cup of tea or going for a shower. It's these pre-programmed, almost autopilot environments that your brain then can go almost into like creative mode. Again, not my area of expertise, but I think that's where running has suddenly become, eventually it can become quite meditative, and
100%.
also that point where you're then having all these great ideas. It's not like that in the beginning, 100%. I think it's actually quite hard in the beginning, but you have to get through those 3 to 6 months of sucking before you can then start to have that meditative effect. Some people will go for a walk and have the same feeling. So that's kind of where some people will prefer to go for a long walk at the end of the day, and eventually running can become that environment.
And I know for me it's like the meditation in motion for me. So like if I have like some deal to negotiate, or I'm just trying to like plot on something in my life or something creative, like I don't really run with headphones or anything, even on long runs or any of that, right? If I run with headphones, it's because I'm like listening to a new album or something that I want to check out, But I'm thinking about like sometimes nothing, and then sometimes I'm thinking about just like, like reflective on my day or something that I'm like been stuck on. So even for me, I realize it's like I don't do a lot of work just at like sitting down, right? For me, I'm like a high energy person, so it's like I have to be in motion and doing things quite a bit. So running does that, walking, even if you talk about like a labyrinth, for example. Like it's like a walking prayer meditation. Like some people just operate better like that, right? So with running for me, it's like that meditative state. After, sometimes I don't even want to talk to people, because like an hour after I'm kind of just like so zen and so chill that it's like it's a completely different feeling. Like after the run, it's crazy.
It's funny you brought that up, because 3 of the marathons, right? So obviously you did Battersea, so that you were lot of laps,
yeah, that was
right?
hard.
So you're obviously seeing the same terrain, and obviously I did a treadmill marathon. I did a running track marathon, so obviously 106 laps at a running track. I did a marathon and a treadmill at KXU. So again, what you're talking about completely. Yeah, I'm picturing it now, and where the different motivations came from, and in London, I got my fastest time. The buzz of the crowd, seeing new people, knowing that the route was one route and that you're always going to be somewhere different, what that does to the head is massive, right? on the running track one, I mean, I had the issues of always turning in the same direction as well. So luckily that didn't give me as much physical problem as people thought it might. But the meditation side of it, you had to find that space.
Yeah.
You had 106 laps of the track. It was literally
so much harder.
I mean, without music, you talk about music, boy, I tell you what, I'd be stepping off that running track without music, because it was my Afro house in my room, just give me that same beat, give me that same rhythm. And and I just had to zone. And to a point, the lines became just a kind of blur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just like,
Yeah.
It was just like another one, 106, you know what I mean? And then the treadmill, treadmill was harder than the running track one, because the whole thing of you're hitting the same muscles, right? The motion is just the same, right? It's just boom, boom, boom. You can't go left, you can't go right, you're just there. And I set my speed between 10 and 12 and a half. I said, I'm not going to go below 10 kilometers per hour. I couldn't really go above 12 and a half, if I'm honest. And just the thing of the urge of when you're hurting and you want to get off and step off the side and fight in that
That's
urge.
where the mindset came in,
Oh my
huh?
God, that was it. Like I hit a place because a lot of the trainers there who were doing the class, Alex Lawson was doing the last class. He kind of pushed me over, and I had Luke and Poppy were like there supporting me at the end. They'd seen a different side to me. Like, as in usually you see me running, I'm quite comfortable, like, and I was like, the noises, all of it, and then looking, I think, yeah, go on. Looking at it, I ain't seen that before. Do you know what I mean?
were like, if I could, I would punch you right
Yeah, but that last 3 kilometers, like, I was holding on for dear life. Probably, I mean, Snowdonia Trail Marathon, I think, was the hardest overall because of climbing Snowdonia during it and what it was doing about the length of it. But the treadmill marathon mental game, that's the one I'm most proud of, that I kind of managed to finish it like with a mental side, because I was in a dark place at the end of that one. It is that temperature as well, right? You're stuck in the room.
I can't imagine. The 8 laps in Battersea, that was already hard. I was like, I wish this was just one big
course.
route, right? Yeah. But it just kept repeating, and it's just like, But there was a positive side to it though, because there were these stations. Each lap you do, there's this station where you can like grab a water or something. And I was just like, you know how you trick yourself? So I was just like, just one more lap, just half a lap more, just half a lap more. And it was that day was really hard actually, because as soon as I started, I was like, I haven't slept enough. I feel like shit. I feel like straight up from the get go. I know it was brutal.
Well, I saw you on that one, obviously, and then but you were going for it, man. Like,
yeah, but you have to find it. You have to find it.
Well, I did
it
with Nee. I did that same one with Nee, the client, and every time we went past, funny you said that water station, every time we went past, I said, that's your rocket fuel, mate. That's your rocket fuel. And you got the water every single time.
Exactly.
Sipped it, his pace upped. Straight after it. So I was saying, it's your rocket fuel. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, and all the time I was saying, my feet are your feet, my feet are your feet. And like, do you know what I mean? He did it so well in that one. Like I paced him around that one. But that track, that course is, it's just
literally.
That's like the running track.
Like, we were talking about like what the elites are doing. Once you get past that point where you're like enjoying the running and you've got your first couple of races under your belt, and you're like, oh, now I want to see what I'm capable of. You can't spice up your training every single week, month, hour. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Until it gets easy.
Well, until it becomes so monotonous that it's a job. And then you turn up to work, you get it done. I don't walk away from work every single time going, oh, I feel amazing.
It's actually funny you say that. Like, literally, like, I'm running way more now. So it's like, even the days I don't feel like running, I can easily do like hit times, only because I just keep doing it more and keep doing it more. And it's like you almost go in autopilot mode where you're like, oh, like I'll be at the beginning of the run, I'm like, I don't even want to do 1K. And then you're like 15K in and you're like, all right, that wasn't bad, right? but it's just like work. It's the same thing. It's like, I know Tom Brady was like, yo, fuck your tired mind, fuck your tired body. You know what I mean? And like, that's kind of the same way with running when you're talking about like your capabilities. Like, how do you get to the next level? It's like, you know, you have to put in the work. So just do it.
Well, the percentage isn't when you're training for a marathon, the highest percentage is in your easy, right? You're doing your longer, easy runs, and those are not necessarily ones you look forward to, because you're thinking, a lot of people thinking, I want to go fast, I want to see, if I'm doing,
yeah, give me the long easy runs. What are you talking about?
But that's where your trainers at. And if you talk about not using music and stuff like that, boy, what's that trendy thing at the moment? Raw dogging, is it? What's going on?
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? People are applying it to anything now. Do you know what I mean? But you can apply it to not music for your runs. If I was training for the marathon, I'm doing all those easy runs with no music, I struggle. I mean, I honestly,
you think you would struggle.
Yeah.
But then honestly, you actually prefer. Like I don't have my phone. I don't have anything with me.
Just look at the nature. I mean, provided you're in a park or in a forest or somewhere nice. If you're on the streets, even then I feel like just take in the environment. It's super meditative.
Yeah, I was in St. Moritz.
You've got to fit that in though. If you're doing it around classes, Hyde Park might be your only option. That's it.
But Hyde Park is. I love Hyde Park. That's one of my favorite ones.
Do you love it the 1000th time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's mindset right there.
It's like sometimes when you're finishing these runs and you're even in Hyde Park's my favorite. I run that route all the time.
It is a really nice.
I second
route, but I've done it so many times.
Because you're seeing a lot of different people too, though.
And flowers and gardens and trees and seasons change and squirrels.
Yeah.
So cute.
And that park changes drastically because it's so many tourists, right? It's so many tourists in that park.
Yeah.
So you see loads of different stuff all the time. Different seasons bring different things as well.
Other people running,
which is quite motivation. People are saying what's up. It's cool, right? Mm-hmm. And then also if you run certain times, you start seeing similar people. There's these one guys I know every day. These guys are, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I run down this the side where the fountains and all that are, and there's these guys every day I would run. They were just hanging out, smoking a cigarette there, right? And they would say, hey, every time I'm running by, right? And it's just it's kind of looked forward to that, actually. I was just oh, what's up? Oh, what's up, man? You know what I mean? So it's it's beauty in a lot of the running. And then even traveling with when I'm running in different places, I used to call it the lost and found run, right? So I would just be all right, every red light, take a right, you know what I mean? And I started exploring places of the city that I would never go, So it's I don't know, and you start hearing different things, seeing different things. So, and it's very difficult to wear the headphones then, because you're going to get hit by a car.
I do love music. I do DJ and stuff. So
yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So music takes priority for me as well.
100%.
It's one thing that just gives me the buzz for it. But no, that is serious. Doing the same route without music, again, that's serious. That is mindset right there. And I think when you come to a race and people say, right, you don't need to do the distance in your training, okay, because when you do the race, as long as your muscles are going to hold up and you're not going to cramp up or whatever, the adrenaline can get you there because of the crowd, because of the route that you haven't done before, right? I suppose if you can get your mindset to a point where you're doing the same route every time and you're still finding it interesting and you're doing it without music, then when it comes to the race, you know what I mean, you're going to elevate yourself to a whole new dimension. So yeah, I think that's a big part of mindset, right?
Just kind of adding on to that, the chemistry piece, the adrenaline is a really important part of the training, because that's what increases your heart rate. Without adrenaline, we don't actually get a heart rate increase. So when we're running, we're getting a massive dump of norepinephrine in the brain. It's going down into the heart, dripping onto that node in the heart that sends the heart rate going a little bit faster. So I think that's what a lot of the time when we get that runners high off the back of that, adrenaline is the key indicator for us feeling good about it. It's very similar to what we're experiencing now with people doing ice baths. That sudden
So is it adrenaline
rush.
or is it dopamine or is it something else?
It's a whole concoction of chemistry in the brain. Yeah. It's not just one thing, especially when to get heart rate up, the whole brain being activated when we're looking at threats, analysing the blood, receptors in the heart, in the muscle, all communicating back and forth. It's all part of the same picture. But that, there's a Professor Suzuki talks about it, this is almost like a bubble bath of chemicals going off in the brain. That's what is really good for the neural development of people. That's why actually we've seen some evidence to suggest that the brain starts to create new connections between other parts of the brain based on movement. So we can start to sort of be a bit more plastic in our brain connections. So I think in the early stages, that's where a lot of the buzz comes from, really. And then when you then get into race day and suddenly then you do conquer what you thought was unachievable before, that feeling of euphoria is there. But what we do see is that that's eventually becoming a point where, now a marathon's not enough, or going out for a run's not enough anymore. I have to do it either faster or further. And if we have to manage expectations, we have to manage that routine then and be able to go, cool, okay, well, this one's going to be easier. We're going to pull this one back. You're not going to feel as good about it because it's not as hard. You're not going to get as much adrenaline from it. But it's to build the blocks to stack the hard work on top of. And that race you're doing in 3 months' time, we're not going to race it as hard as you want because we're just going to test our fueling. Because then the big race in 4 months' time, that's the one we're going to go big on.
I was just about to say, I, for example, totally don't do that. But then I remembered I did 1 half marathon in my life. And then I said, I'm going to do a marathon now. So I'm super guilty. And I guess we're getting into the preparation side now. So how I know a lot of people do this where they're just like, okay, I'm going to run this. And they just go and do it. Like I did that with the half marathon, right? How healthy is that? And where should one draw the line? And I'm not talking about like me or these like regular people. It's also, we know Louis, right?
Yeah.
A friend of mine. And he said, you know what? I think I'm going to run the marathon. And he just pretty much just raw dogged it or whatever. and then now he's running all the ultras. And so the question becomes, how much preparation is enough? Obviously, I know it's going to be individual from a person, but like widely speaking, and how much is too much? Because I know also a lot of people, even from the gym, that wanted to run a marathon and they started preparing 6-9 months in advance, and they ran so much they injured themselves before the marathon and they never ran the marathon. I know a bunch of people like that. So where's the sweet spot?
It's your programming, isn't it?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Fletch is going to go, right, well, I can give you. If you've got 6 months, don't worry. I'll get you the time, I'll make sure.
No, but I'm super serious, because I want to know how much realistically, without overdoing it, I need to train before this Rio marathon. And I don't want to, this concept does not compute in my head where you're running a marathon every week to prepare for a marathon. What? Or 2 even? What? Make it make sense to me, please, because I don't get it.
Yeah, no.
Surely.
Yeah,
what?
Go Fletch.
I mean, to be sort of like brutally honest, the more time you give yourself, the better.
Yeah.
Because if you want to qualify the Olympics, start when you're 11 years old. That's kind of like, look at the cycle of an athlete getting to the peak of their performance. It's years and years and years of compounding interest to get to that point. Some people can, like I said before, someone can get away with murder and literally jump into that marathon and they get away with the whole thing. In order to know if that's healthy or not, we need to know what health actually is. We don't know really what healthy is. There's a whole longevity industry now kicking off trying to decipher the ultimate human, and their first question is, what is healthy? But someone can go and do that marathon, have a rest for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month, recover, bounce back to baseline again, and they're back to the way they were before. Some people do that exact same situation and they feel like they're crippled, they're in physiotherapy for the next 3 or 4 weeks, working on niggles here and there, and their knee's never the same, their meniscus goes. There's no one size fits all. With you said before, it definitely depends on the individual. The more time we have, the better, because we learn more about how you respond to exercise and fitness. Do you respond really well to low intensity exercise? Is actually your body not geared up that way, and you've got a predisposition to be fast but not endurance based? Can we utilize that strength and inform endurance in a early stage training block that then will allow us to do more long, slow stuff later on? So from our perspective, it's let's work with you as an individual first. And then off the back of that, the longer we have, the better, because we get to learn more about you.
There's a lot of those initial injuries you can get from running. So you talked about plantar fasciitis, runner's knee, etc. These can solve themselves by you keeping at it. Not obviously going crazy, but in the sense of plantar fasciitis is a prime example. It's like a lot of people get it when they start running, but they don't have to stop running for it, right? They just carry on and it will go away with time. You have to, various treatment you can do to it, but yeah, I found that when I got plantar fasciitis at the start, just carried on running, and the same with the little niggles you get in because your body's got to adapt to that sort of impact, right? But I think a lot of people get those niggles and stuff at the start and they think that's I've got an injury, like it's the end of it, I can't run, do you know what I mean? And
so you just power through it.
So yeah, well,
or find alternatives.
It depends.
Too.
It depends, obviously, what it is, and obviously you need to get diagnosis on it. But there are things that you get from starting that motion, that movement, that you can get over and still carry on your running with, doing more.
That's what I was saying before. Like, you've also got to train in order to train.
Yeah. 100%.
So you've got to get the body adapted to what you want it to do, and then after that you can start pushing it on the stress element to then make it further adapt after that. Especially in the early stages for the plantar fascia, Achilles tendon, patellar tendon, the meniscus, the ligaments around the knee, they take a lot of load and a lot of force. And if in your head, a run is not a run if it's less than 5K, you're going to be in for a little bit of a shock if you're doing that 5 times a week and you've never run before. Yeah. There's not enough recovery time between these sessions in order for that tissue to repair itself. That's where we see inflammation building up within the tissue, and that sort of adaptive response just drops off until you then get a full-blown injury. So it's being able to go, okay, I'm going to stress the system, I'm going to allow it to recover, bounce back, hopefully even a little bit better than it was, and then stress it again. Allow it to bounce back and recover, and then stress it again. And the trajectory's up.
How long is the recovery usually?
Everyone's individual.
Yeah, it's I would say I'm super into like wearable stuff. So like heart rate variability is something to like everyone should look at, because it's basically how your body is recovering and responding to training load, right? And by the way, it's not just the training, right? You like people are talking about recovery, but like some people may try to do 100-mile weeks and they have like a full-time intense job. They probably won't do 100-mile weeks. Like somebody that is running in Kenya who sleeps all throughout the day, then does their next run, right? Because like HRV is taken into account like the actual training load, also like your emotional load too, like and the stressors at work and all these other things, and then also how you're fueling your body, right? So like protein shakes, for example, like I try to take it within 30 minutes of like ending my run, because I had like the glucose monitor. I noticed I had like a rise and then it would level off, and that's where my recovery was like much better. If I didn't do the protein shake, my recovery was actually not as good. Or if I took it later in the day, it wouldn't be as good, right? So there's like multiple factors in regards to recovery. It's like people's lifestyles, all this type of stuff, where they're training, how they're training. So people are like, I'm gonna go do a 100-mile week, and it's like your life's not even set up for that, you know? And like you ran 70 last week, you should probably maybe run 77, 75 maybe. Like, you know, not 100.
You know what, guys? I think this, like in so many other areas in life, is a big question of why are you doing it? Like, what's the reason why you're doing this run or this marathon or this exercise? Because if you're after, you know, if it's an arbitrary decision, you might not need to push yourself so hard. If you can set yourself a goal, okay, I want to run a marathon, but you can give yourself plenty of time. But yeah, it's a matter of understanding your motivation and then just kind of making sure that you're in a position of not.
We had that discussion, didn't we? At the start.
Yeah. we were talking about like sacrifice.
Very we talked about the motivators.
To kind of throw a slight curveball in, I don't think people actually need to be pushed to work hard. I think once they've got the idea of doing it, they almost go over and abroad of what they should be doing. They're like, I'm going all in. And they actually work too hard, too soon, do too much. What we actually need to be encouraging is, if you want to do something great, small, sustainable steps that are actually relatively easy, that you can build the habit, and then once you've got the habit in place, then you can start adding intensity to it. It's not about go hard, go home, really.
And people need to, I think a lot of people in business and training, whatever, they look at these things as like very short windows, right? But it's like I want to hit crazy times, but I'm looking at this as like 4 or 5 year journey. I'm not trying to hit the times right now. You know what I mean? I would kill myself, right? But I think like, and then people would be like, oh man, you've been running for a long time. But it's like, not really. It's just most people can't do things for 30 days, let alone 2 years.
When I started out, I said, early 30s, I was running for the buzz. So I wasn't looking at my time. I was running to work knowing that when I got to work, I'd feel better for it.
Yeah.
Right? And it would make my day a little bit better. So like, now with social media and everything going on, the focus is on like everyone's going times and
everybody wants to be like crazy.
When I started, it wasn't about that. For me, it was like, it didn't matter what time I got there. I was just running to work. Okay. And then I knew roughly, it might take me this long. So I've got to leave this amount of time for me to get there. And then what I liked was how I felt when I got there, right? So I think, it's so different now. I think that like there is so much pressure on like what's coming at you, and you're like, right, I've got to run that. That's a good time. That's a bad time. Do you know what I mean? It's
Exactly, because what I was thinking about is these incredible figures that we all know about. David Goggins, and what's this guy's name? This British guy, Matthew something. He just ran 30 marathons in 30 days in the desert. That guy. Sorry. And so
that guy.
When we see, I don't remember his name. I just saw that post, by the way, randomly. I never followed him before. I saw that post and I was like, wow, that's incredible. So I followed him. So I didn't remember his name. But so we see, people like that, and we're like, wow, that's incredible. We're so inspired. Wow, they did this. And so I feel like with this social media, you feel like you can that's available to you. It's right in front of your eyes, and you're like, oh, maybe I can do that. Obviously, maybe not this specific case, but maybe you're like, you know what? Maybe I can just run a marathon. So, and I think this is where what I said about what's your motivation comes into play, because if your motivation is purely ego-based, which is, let's see if I can do this, there can be very high costs attached, because if your sole objective is to do it with no prep to show yourself that you're so cool, then you might suffer. And I'm by the way, just talking to myself here, because
you're listening. You're listening.
No, but I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there like that. And as you said, some people can get away with murder. That's cool, but probably majority can't. So I think, as always, your initial intention, and understanding your motivation is going to be really beneficial in you creating a better plan and a better experience and a better result in your whole process.
And I think you do need to have an ego, though.
Yeah, you do. It's not all bad. Like, it's going to push you to go places.
Yeah.
But just being mindful that if your whole thing is, I want to do this with no prep to show myself and others that I'm so cool, then that could be
because I was just going to say, like, people need to have like a tamed ego, right? But like everybody talks about like kill the ego and all this stuff. Like, it's like, that sounds good, but everyone who has done something, or it's big, small, you have to have some kind of ego. So it's like kind of even superficial to say like, oh, like I have no ego. Like, yeah, you do.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Everyone
agree.
does,
Everyone
right?
needs.
You just have to tame it,
yeah.
Right? And so I think in that you can have these audacious goals, but you need to be realistic in your approach as well, right? So I think like that.
I just think you've got to find love for running.
That, right? You have to love it.
That's a much better motivation.
If we were saying to anyone watching this who's a bit younger, start young. Do you know what I mean? Start running young, because then you're going to give yourself a better chance to be better at later on in life, and you're going to potentially find the love for it or not find the love for it. So for people that are stepping into these challenges and generally don't like running, but they like the idea of being good on social media or a fast time, why? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can find the love for running. So, I was talking about the half marathons that we were doing. Like one of the girls, Lucia, she did the half marathon in, 2.5 hours or whatever, and she just crossed the line with a massive smile on her face. And I said, you enjoyed that? She goes, I loved it. Do you know what I mean? And it's her first ever half marathon. She wouldn't care about the time, didn't matter where she finished. It was just the love for running.
Beautiful.
Right? So you find that first, and then you can start going places with it. But if you're genuinely stepping into it and go, I don't really enjoy this, but I want to get a 20-minute 5K, or I want to, do all these marathons or whatever, why? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Literally.
go and find something else you love and go and do it there. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's key, man.
I think the reference point is shifted so much towards like the how much can we do and how long can we go and so on, almost to the point where it's becoming a little bit obscene. You think like, okay, in an amazing show of our evolution, the guy's running from Cape Town to London the entire way. So Deo, we've been following him on social media for ages now, and he's actually in Europe now, off the back of running the length of Africa. He's now running across Europe into but he's doing it for a particular reason. And it just seems like there's always going to be people wanting to do more and going further and doing by bettering each other. But that doesn't translate down to the person who's just wanting to go out for their weekly run. And I think that's them becoming this point of what is a runner. And people having an identity crisis around it, like, well, I don't want to do that, therefore am I a runner? No. Or I can't run 9 marathons in a year, like, well, I must be not a runner then. Yeah. And what we're trying to basically challenge is that there is no such thing as a runner. If you want to call yourself that, great, that's for your own reasons, but you use running in order to get something out of it. So you're a person who runs, you're a human, ultimately, first and foremost. Okay, you could be a lawyer, you could be a triathlete who's using running as well, but to hang all your identity on one single thing is quite problematic. I think that's where some people go, I'll step away from it because I'm not that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and even about speed, right? But I try to remind people, like, the slowest runner is the one that sits on the couch, right? Like, if you're out and doing it, you're already fast. You know what I mean? Like, most people aren't doing that at all. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're already a runner, you're doing good.
Well, people are asking me why I didn't do 12 and 12, right? Like, people are like, surely you do 12 marathons, like one every month. And for me, well, it was all about the charity. I mean, I didn't even think about what times I was getting or, you know, like wanting people to see I did 9 and 9. It was all about the charity. And obviously, March was when I came up with the idea. KXU had said I could do it on the treadmill to begin with. So it started in March. And then where did I want to finish? Well, I wanted to finish in New York because there's a lot of base of people that do my online runs out there, and I'd love to have been there for so many years, and it would be such a good marathon to do because I haven't done it. Potentially I could teach over there for Equinox and stuff like that. So I was like, well, that makes sense. We finish in November, and then I can have Christmas and chill. Do you know what I mean? December. But yeah, and that was it. And then it was 9 and 9. Do you know what I mean? Because it went up to November. But the ultimate for me was the charity. Like, it was like knowing that in New York I could get a new community of people that potentially would get involved with the charity as well. So yeah, I mean, and it's just worked out as 9 and 9. Did I know whether I was going to get through it or not? Boy, I tell you that. And it's been, you know, we're moving, but like, yeah, I didn't know what the body's going to do, right? It was just like, I've got to see kind of what happens and take it as is. And I'm obviously still working all my work full time, I haven't cut back anything. Do you know what I mean? So London, I trained for because I had a decent amount of time beforehand, but a lot of them have had to come like every 2 weeks and stuff like that. So there's been no training in between. It's just like, get to that start
and
line,
do it,
finish it. Do you know what I mean?
You know what? And this is one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you guys. I feel like there is something really special between running and mindset, because again, there's these people, you know, like the Goggins, this Spencer guy, and there was this other British guy that ran from like all across, I think all across around UK, some ridiculous, amount of distance.
Is it Ashley? No, Ashley Kane.
No, it's okay. Might not remember. No. He used to be a model before.
Gooch Williams.
Yes, that guy. And for him as well, I think it was the case of something happened and he decided, he was like, I'm just gonna do it, right? So I think there's something really special in specifically the sport of running, because it doesn't have any barriers. Like, you don't have to be like specific boxer with like super skills, or you don't have to know anything else. It's just one of the most naturally inbuilt movements that we possess in our bodies. So there's no pre-qualification. It's accessible to every single human being that can walk, that their legs walk properly. And then the mind comes in. So it's all these, you know, quote unquote regular people that from one day to another just decided, and from the willpower, they just did these most incredible distances and these most incredible feats. And so, yeah, I think there's something really magical between how it's always the running. Because I'm drawing, like I'm seeing these different people across the world, these different stories, but it's always running.
I think the running has a part with mindset, and it's just like magnified right now, especially in today's. But I mean, if you're talking about business people, basketball, like people that are achieving great things, you do have to have this like kind of. There's a book by Tim Grover called Relentless. And he talks about Michael Jordan, talks about Kobe, and like they have this relentless pursuit of whatever they have their mind on, right? And I think that's what it takes, even to get out the door every day, right? You have to have this relentless pursuit, like I'm going to do this. To Michael Jordan, it's the similar mindset. I think the only difference is what that goal is, right? So some people's goal is, I just want to get out the door and run 5 times a week. Nobody wants to run 5 times a week. Most people don't, right? Then you have, like maybe this guy wants to be like an NBA champion, or they want to be like the biggest Elon Musk, right? Those, they all have this relentless pursuit of something, whatever capacity that may be, right? The only person that doesn't is the person that's lazy, right? And I think sometimes those people are just trying.
So what is going on in their heads, you reckon, in your heads when you're running these super long distances, when you're running your marathons? What's going on in your head when you feel weak, when the doubt comes in? How do you help yourself? What happens in the mind?
I think for me it's mantra. I have like a lot of mantras. Like sometimes it's just like focus on form, because that's like if you start getting lazy, you're actually using more energy, right? So when you focus on form, you kind of like tighten back up, and it gives you something else to just like focus on.
So your mantra is focus on form.
Yeah, I just remind myself like, yo, focus on form, right? Even
What
if you're
else?
tired, like at least I'm focused on that. And for me, I mean, I'm like I want to be like an elite person, right?
So it's a matter of identity.
I would say a little bit, yeah. Because me and my friend were even defining like what's elite, right? Like if you keep asking yourself why, you just never. But like my definition is, I think as a man you should be good at everything, right? You're like, you might see the post like the mind of an entrepreneur, the body of an athlete, soul of an artist, right? And so even growing up for me, like I went to a fine art school. I was like one of the best bassoonists in America, right? I played football. I was top 100 prospects in my state. Academically, I had like a full ride academically, right? So that's always been like my standard as a kid. And then I would say I kind of got away from that because I'm like, after college, especially in America, it's very focused on capitalism. Like if you're getting money, like you're good. Like you can do no wrong. You know what I mean? But then it's like once you hit that, that's kind of a little bit unfulfilling as well. So then you go back, at least for me, like to childhood. Like what were you doing as a kid? And then that's when I got back into like, all right, well, you need to be elite every day. And my mom's told me about this guy named Paul Robeson, who was like a Renaissance man. He was an athlete, artist, all this stuff. And so now I'm like, Carmichael, what does like modern day Renaissance man look like for you? And how do you become that and show the world that that's the kind of man that you should be, and it's possible. You can't just be like, yeah, modern day Renaissance man, you should be that person.
And don't
it's like,
leave.
no, like if you go to like Buddhism and all this other stuff, it's like, or like more so Stoic philosophy, it's like, don't tell them how to live, show them how to live. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm not like pushing it on anyone. They can do whatever they want. I don't care actually.
That's your standard that you're upholding for yourself.
Yeah. And then like if people resonate with that, like cool, let's do it. But for me, it's like, how do you see what's at the end of human potential, right? And I think that changes every day, which is good and bad, right? Again, I'm an American, extremely capitalistic, extremely like more. I know that. And people will be like, well, like when is enough? And it's like, look, I'm grateful for the moment I'm in. I'm not like down on myself, but I'm also like, look, if you made it this far, what's next, right? I mean, me and my friend were talking this morning, and we're like, I couldn't get, I don't know, kg, but 180 pounds, right? Because in high school, I played American football, so I was 180 pounds. I was like, man, there's no way I can get below 180, man. That was my physical peak. Now I'm like 156 or something, you know? And so I'm just like now he's like, Carmichael, you've kind of already made it past where you thought you were gonna go, and like the way you live and all this other stuff. He's like, maybe you've already made it. And I'm like, no, man, because like once you start seeing more,
The evolution
expectations
continues
become
always.
more.
Yeah.
Because you're like, if I'm capable of this, what else is there, right? And I think that you're also an example of showing people like what is possible. And so like I would say most like in East Africa right now, I have loads of people messaging me on Instagram and things like that, right? Like people from Kenya, Rwanda, like it's crazy, right? And they're like one guy took a bus 2 hours to run with me in Tanzania, in Arusha, right? And he was like, man, like you can't, he said, you can't stop. Like you're giving us like hope and something to see, right? But it's like, imagine if I just stayed that guy,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, who else is going to be impacted if I keep pushing? You know what I mean? And also it's changed my life completely. I mean, I wouldn't be in this room with all of you know what I mean? I would have never went to the gym. I would have never come to the track thing, right? I would have never met you at the, I would have never done some of these things if I wouldn't just push myself just a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
And I always say like 2%, right? Like do more than what's expected, but make sure it's sustainable. A lot of people go 0 to 100 every day and then they crash. Like don't crash out. Like it's these small steps.
Yeah. It's important to talk about that community though, what running's done for community as well. Like some of the run clubs, you know, how many people it's brought together. Like, and that's
100%.
more of a recent thing. Do you know what I mean? Some of these brands are doing amazing run clubs. Like everyone coming together, you know, probably some of them are married now, got babies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear this is the new dating scene. That's the new.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're doing it for exercise, doing something healthy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, people are dropping drink, all of it because of running. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I mean, there's some real like positive in terms of community, what running's, the kind of big buzz of running and what that's done at the moment and how brands are tapping into running. Where do we go next? Running, because it's so big, right? They might not have gone there before, but they're doing it now because they realize it's going to lift the brand. So yeah, you know, the community side of it is
critical,
massive.
Yeah.
I mean, we all met because of like community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I would say we're pretty like-minded, like, you know what I mean? Like that's, you also, with running, like for the community aspect, you're kind of meeting a lot of like-minded people who are like, hey, like maybe you still have a drink here and there, right? Some people enjoy that, but they're like finding other alternatives to
Having
social
fun
interactions,
and spending
right?
time together, 100%.
You know what I mean? And that's positive because I know so many people who went to run club and they're like, man, I couldn't even, like, I was stopping this and that, like, and now I found people that are kind of more like kind of in search of the same thing. Because me, before, I was partying, I was doing like, I did everything. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? I did like everything. So like I never judge anyone, right? So it's like, but now I was done with that aspect of my life, and you also are shifting like kind of friend circles as well, right? And so
That's a big
you're
question.
meeting a lot of people who are also in that shifting of friend circles, and now you have like a like-minded people and like a kind of a core group. So to your point, like that, the community.
Yeah, and that's it, like-minded, exactly. People that around you that run, your friends and stuff like that, and how they're enjoying it, what you're seeing, the impact running's having on their life, and then that making you want to do it, right? And obviously for us, it's easy as trainers because our job is we want you to enjoy the sessions, enjoy the running. But the 5 of you that came and did the half marathon, I had to say that week on week. You know what I mean? They didn't want to do it the first time I said it. Didn't want to do it the second time I said it. It was about the 10th. Every day I was like, who wants to do a half marathon with me? Because I'm training.
Not me, though.
You were straight in. So like, I mean, I would do that. I was like, then it was boom. But the other guys, they were like, I can't do that. I can't half marathon. Are you mad? I was like, yes, you can. Do you know what I mean? You've been doing these sessions with me, interval sessions. You're well prepped for this. And I had to do it every week, literally. And before I got the other ladies in it was probably, I'd repeated myself about 8 times, but they said, go on then, which one is it? And we signed them up and that was it, and they got it done. And
you
now
have to do
it
something for the
changes.
first time to believe that you can actually do
You know what I
it.
mean?
I think it's a big argument. We're stronger than we think, but you need to respect the distance.
Yeah.
You have to respect that it's a lot for the body to go through, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So we've proven it over and over again every year at the London Marathon and all these other marathons, people that go in and go, oh, training's been all over the place, but I'm just going to get it done because I've raised all this money for charity, and they're pulling themselves to the finish line and they walk over and they've done it. You can walk the marathon if you want to. The distance is not the problem. It's when we then set expectations for ourselves. But I think what we've been kind of drilled into as a society is that we're not strong enough. Like we just got to get up in the morning and go to work and so on. We're not challenging ourselves in any fashion. We're not getting that that buzz from it of achievement. We're generally like held to a quarterly conversation with our boss saying, well, you're probably not worth the pay rise this week.
And that's because like they had something happening or something.
But you know what? You're super spot on, because before I bumped into Nikki and he was like, hey, we're doing half marathon. I had never run any race, period. And so the maximum distance that I had ever run was, I think, 10 kilometers on like a super long run somewhere, like twice or 3 times in my life. And so then I bumped into him and he's like, we're running this half marathon. And I was like, how long is half marathon? He's like 22 kilometers. And I'm like,
what happened then? Your mindset came in, right? Your mindset said, wow, you probably straight away in your head without saying it thought, I can't do that. But then your mindset went, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah,
you know
yeah. I was like, you know what?
Challenge accepted.
That's exactly what I said. Like, challenge accepted. I need a new challenge in my life.
There's 2 things working against each other there. So
but there was definitely in my mind in the background, like after I said, and obviously when I say it, I have to do it. But there was that, whoa, well, that's more than twice what I ever did, and I'm not a runner, and I've never run a race. Yeah, exactly. And so can I do it? It's going to be embarrassing if I can't. What if I break my joints? All of these things went through my mind, but then it was as a training preparation. I just did like 3 Sunday runs before the thing. And then I did, for the first time, I did like 14 kilometers, and then the other time I did 18, and I was like, oh, I can totally do this. And the point is that you don't know that you can until you do. And so there's going to be all sorts of things running into your mind. And this doesn't obviously just apply to running. It's really anything. But then you just go and do it. I think there's such strong emphasis on us remembering that we need to curate this internal voice at all times. Mm-hmm. And we need to be aware of what that internal voice is saying. Is it a positive one? Is it a negative one? Is it full of doubt and fear at all times? If so, we need to really do some work in order to reprogram that voice so that it's a beneficial, so that it's an inspiring one, so it's a accepting challenges one, so it's a nurturing one when you're down. So when you're physically down, you need something that pulls you up internally, not one that like beats you down even more. So, but then it's a loop, right, of what comes first, doing it, proving yourself that you can do it, or, changing that voice. And I think they just go hand in hand together.
A lot of people don't know. That's the thing. Like when I'm taking the treadmill class and I know that these 18 people come every week, they're doing interval sessions, they're covering 9 to 10 kilometers on the treadmill. When they're coming, I know based on how their bodies have been and the fact that they're doing it, they're getting faster, we're talking about PR, their PR numbers going up, that they can do it, right? But if I ask them, probably 20% might say, I'll give that a go. 80 will be like, I can't do it. Right there, mindset. When I'm telling them, I know you can do it. Do you know what I mean? And I also know, based on the fact that you've been running for so long, so like, obviously, Fletch would probably say, like if someone was coming fresh and they hadn't done any treadmill session, right? And then I suddenly like, go and do a half marathon. Well, we've got to build you up there. We've got to see how your body works. We've got to see how, it works, because certainly I don't want to tell someone to do a half marathon and then they get a bad injury or something because they've never done that before. But the people that are doing it and I know they can do it, the fact that I'm saying it to them, but they still got the mindset of like, I can't do it, says a lot, right? And then what are the positives that could come out of it? Like,
yeah, exactly. Focusing on a positive rather than negative.
How you finish it, how you feel. Do you know what I mean? You're like, wow, what am I going to do next? And that's what you're talking about. So, and because you've been doing it week after week, you have the ability to do that. But usually your mind says, I can't do that. I'm not a runner because I'm only doing 9K, or I'm not my PR's too slower than the person to the right of me.
And this is a question of the stretching of the comfort zone, right? What was that? The Olympic, was it the running in the one Olympic sport where for years they had been doing exactly that same time, and then one year just someone comes in and they break that record, and after that everyone breaks that record.
4-minute mile.
Yes.
Roger Gordon's plan is to basically crack that code, and then all of a sudden now we've got 100 people doing it in a race.
Yeah,
that's right. That's crazy. So it's what is the limitation? What is the box that you have placed yourself in your mind?
Yeah,
with running and with other things.
And you have to be a new human. I think the cool thing with running is like distance, time, whatever. Like you have to become a new human every single time you're like hitting a new distance or hitting a new time or whatever it may be, right? Like I have this half marathon coming up. I've never hit the time that I want, right? So I have to become a new human mentally and like believe that I can hit the time. If I don't believe I can do it, I'm not going to do it 100%. Right?
100%.
So it's like I have to genuinely believe that I can hit the time and then go out and execute on it. And then now, new baseline.
So how do you do that? Is it repetition? Is it affirmation? Is it your mantra?
For
You
me-
believe before you see? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think it's like visualization for sure. I think it's also mantras for sure. I also think like the people you're around is so critical, right? Like in Kenya, for example, they're like the most optimistic people I've ever met in my entire life.
Less is more.
You know what I
They
mean?
have less and they're so much happier.
It's like, for example, if I call my buddy Nixon right now and I say, bro, I think one day I can run 206. He'd be like, bro, I don't see why not, bro. Like if you put the work in, you can do it, right? And like you have Kipchoge, he said no human is limited, right? So if you think about those type things, it's like if you genuinely believe you can do it, you'd be amazed at what happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I think that having people around, like my friends, my family, whatever, like you have to also teach them how to speak to you, right? No one around me can say negative things, right? Everything must be an optimism. Like obviously you have hard conversations and blah, 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 but everything must be optimistic.
You have to
Everything must
educate
be
people on
positive.
how to speak to you, 100%.
Exactly. Even
And how to treat you.
even like,
Boundaries.
Exactly. Like even like my parents, right? I think sometimes parents,
Always.
they also operate in for safety, not happiness, right? So you have to also understand their goals, but you have to kind of shift them as well. I said, mom and dad, like what I'm trying to accomplish next, it can't take hesitation. Just like in the Olympics, you talk about the 100 meters. That one moment of hesitation can be the difference between gold, silver, or no medal,
100%.
right? It's the same with life and your goals as well, right? That moment of hesitation can be the difference of you achieving your goal and not. So you have to have that optimism constantly, that positivity, the mantras, all that stuff to make yourself believe that it's possible, right? And like visualize. Like when I was in St. Moritz, and after a run, I was just looking up, and it's like I was around the lake, and you see the houses and stuff, and I was like, because I have this vision of like one day like being this triathlete, and like being in St. Moritz training all the time. My friends and family are there, and like people are there, and like a yoga teacher comes, and like all these crazy things, right? And like in that moment, I felt it, right? Where it's like you're like overwhelmed with it, but I practice visualization all the time. So when you get that feeling, you're like, can't stop now. It's too close. You know what I mean?
You know what? I was literally speaking about this yesterday with a friend of mine. I think if you have a vision of the future, some might call it an inspired idea. I call it a vision because it comes to you like a strike of lightning. And it's a completely new and different energy, and you just see it like it's a glimpse of a future. And I think when you have these visions, they are showing you what not only could be, but what is meant for you, what is optimally for you to go towards. And so I think that you almost have a duty to pursue
100%.
that.
That's what we're talking about.
Because it's been shown to you. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
and
saying,
you could have been told from quite a young age that, you know, that you can't do that, or like you know, do you know what I mean? Like, and that can stay with you. Do you know what I mean? The fact that and then we're creatures of habit, and do you know what I mean? And obviously, where it comes from there, it stays with us, and it's like, oh no, I couldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not good enough because I was told that, you know, or I wasn't as good as the person next to me, so that means I can't do that.
Yeah.
Not at all. And again, running again is a prime example of where you can lift that mindset and then go through it and be like, I did that. And what does that do for your life? That does
Exactly.
a lot for your life. Do you know
It's
what I mean?
a tangible
It's a
proof that you've shown yourself that you can push your limits. I think this is kind of the answer to what we were talking about earlier. Why is it always running for all these people? That one thing in common. I think because it's a relatively easy thing to do. And in the moment, you just need to control 1 mile more, 1 mile more, just one more, just one more. That's why I was asking you, what are you thinking? I'm going to ask you both as well. But like, for example, for me, when I was running and it was really, really hard, I was just like, just one next lap. That's it. And you kind of trick yourself.
How many things we couldn't do in lockdown, right?
Yeah,
one
yeah,
thing
yeah,
we could
exactly.
do, running, you know, and that's when a lot of people got into it. So yeah, it is. You know, we've got, you know, we can move, and like we've got to be grateful for that as well, right? The fact that we can.
It's a gift. It's a privilege.
Get that buzz,
it's a privilege.
you know what I mean? So yeah, no, 100%, man.
Yeah. So, what about you? What's your mental game when you're struggling?
I probably don't train hard enough to struggle at the moment, to be perfectly honest. My struggles are more like family related, 2 young kids, waking up at 2 a.m, putting one of them back to bed. That's my mindset. You're like, you can do this. You got this.
So you have the internal cheerleader that's supporting you.
My mantras when I'm running are usually going through just like the fact that I get to do this. It's something that I am able to do.
Yeah.
And my projections for my performance is much longer term. I'm thinking I want to run when I'm 90. Like, that's why I'm running today, is I'm getting all the physiological benefits of going out for a run so that I can live a much longer, healthier life than I would be if I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, what are you training for? I'm like, 90.
Longevity.
Yeah, but it's a buzzword, but it's true. Like, why would I want to put my body, me personally, into a precarious situation where then I'm now suddenly going to be looking at hip replacements and so on, because we know the steep decline after that is quite steep. So I'm not suggesting that running it causes those things at all, because we do it, we program for it all the time, and making sure that we're doing it in a sustainable way, like we were saying before, is really important. But my body is already stretched to the point limit where we're trying to push the business. We're trying to push and sustain a family.
The other factors that we said, there's a lot of
100%.
pressures that you're under right now.
Exactly.
So the last thing you want to do is, for no reason at all, inflict a huge physical stressor, like, for example, running, I don't know,
So I don't wear a wearable at the moment because it's always saying that you're under recovering. I'm like, great. I know I am.
And the thing is too, I think like you actually are training just in a different way too, right? Every day you're dealing with a family structure you've never dealt with before. Your kids are getting older, like the business is different. Like you're actually a new person even with that. Like there's new challenges. Your kids may say something, you're like, I didn't even know you knew about that, right?
That's tough, man. Yeah, and that's, you know, but also obviously like how many people you're setting up to get that mindset already, right? You prep a lot of people to be able to kind of do that as well. So that's massive motivation.
My calling is coaching. I've known that from a very young age. Like, my calling is coaching, and now we're sort of bringing in more coaches. It's just coaching the coaches and bringing them up to speed and making sure that the clients are looked after as much as possible. I don't have an aspiration to be an athlete. I enjoy fitness. I love doing the bits that I like doing. I like feeling strong enough. I like being fit enough for offsetting the other stresses that are in my life. But my aspirations to hit my fastest 5K are somewhere in the future. I'm like, okay, I'll get to that eventually, but I'm just ticking over now. Be as healthy as I can be at this point in time. So when I'm going out for those longer runs, it's almost like a fulfilling act to be like, oh man, I finally get to just do something for myself.
Yeah.
And there's so many people when they get older, or not when they get older, but like in the sense of say, I can't run. Like you go and my joints don't let me do it or whatever. But if you had started, at that younger age, then your body preps, you know what I mean? You can get injuries along the way, of course, but you're just giving yourself a better chance. And, you want to be the person that says in the later years that, I can actually run, I can go for a jog, I can, get that buzz. And I think like if you're going to start.
And this is also what it's all about, is ultimately, encouraging people that are not maybe yet running or are kind of on the fence, understanding that it is the most natural thing and it's available for absolutely everyone, and you do not need to compare yourself to Goggins or anyone else, running
Goggins
whatever they're running.
Don't compare yourself to him.
Don't.
He's just like, that's a whole different level.
Yeah, it's a whole different.
And by the way, that's a lot of sacrifice too. We were talking about that. Like, he
doesn't have a life. He only trains all the time.
But he enjoys that. You know what I mean?
No, I'm reading his second book now. I know very well what's his schedule like. But
a prime example, we got asked for a journalist was, is what the hardest geezer did healthy? Because obviously he's running, he's exercising
Surely
all the day,
not.
he's doing this. And I'm like, well, the fact that he was mostly taking videos of him pissing blood, probably not.
Yeah.
So there's
I didn't even know.
there's extremes to all this stuff. So,
but you know what? What everyone is really inspired by and why they're following him is really his mental game. It's surely not about his physical feats. If you've read the book or if you know his story fully, what's impressive is that he kept pushing his body and insurmountable challenges mentally. So his mental game is what I'm following and what I'm inspired by, and I'm sure that most people as well. So despite his situation, his childhood, his upbringing, his physical, what does he have? He has a heart condition, all sorts of stuff. So despite all of that, super not healthy. But what's incredible is his mental game. So
how old is he now? He must be like in his early 40s, mid 40s.
Yeah, he's mid 40s, I think. Yeah.
It'd be fascinating to know what he's like in his 70s.
Yeah.
Like that mental game may have to come in really strong when he's not able to do what he wants to do anymore.
Yeah.
And also
so that identity as being that particular kind of person, he's now hung. This is not speaking to you, David Goggins especially, but when we then start to be able to do all these good things and push ourselves to the absolute max, now we're not necessarily always thinking what's coming in the future.
Yeah, everything is an opportunity cost.
Exactly.
For sure. And this is why I really like what you're saying is, I'm running because that's my time for myself, essentially. And for myself, I also, I want to do the checklist of like, I want to run a marathon in my life. That's fine. But generally speaking, I do it because I just like it now. It's not for anything else. And also, right? Even for gym, right? I gym like maybe an average 5 times a week. And people are so why you're training? And it's such a weird question for me, actually. It's just because it's a part of life. It's part of you sustaining your physique and be healthy, right? That's how I see it. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to know why they do what they do.
And I think it's more important, like you were saying, just to go out for yourself. Because I think that life is actually probably more balanced as well. Because like, for example, me, like when I'm saying I want to...
How much do you run?
Right now, like last week I did 117 kilometers. But like, but then that's like strength training, you have recovery, you have
that's like 3 marathons.
Something like that.
40 kilometers in a marathon, yeah.
But it's like, and then like I'm doing business stuff on the side of that and all that. But it's like, even though I believe that's what a man should be, that's just my definition. It's not like.
So I'm curious to know, usura is the word in Italian. How you consume your joints, basically, or your body is what I'm trying to say. So, you versus you, for example, how much do you run a week? 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, whatever, something like that.
Varies between 0 and 15, probably.
Okay. So you versus 120 kilometers, let's say 10 kilometers a week. Exactly. Whose body is better off?
That's the unfortunate situation we're in at the minute is we don't know what health is. We don't know what healthy it really is. We've got certain things where we can look at mitochondrial efficiency, we can look at muscle fiber, health and recruitment and the neurological things, but ultimately at the end of the day we don't really know because sports science is still so young and we don't get to do these studies where we're like, let's follow this person for the next 50 years. But
I think that's coming now.
It should be.
Some people.
On the back of these things, like we know that the body responds really well to activity. And so things like VO2 max has a really close correlation with longevity or all-cause mortality when you look at it in a scientific term. But also grip strength does too.
Grip strength.
Mobility.
Maybe not so much. Like flexibility hasn't really been shown to prevent injuries, for example. In fact, sometimes it can actually be the main causation of an injury. It's just being able to find what those trends look like. But to answer the question simply, don't know. It could be that sometimes if he's not able to get the recovery he needs, he could be on a slope down that week. And suddenly the next week he's back up again. Whereas I'm not getting the recovery I need from a 15, I'm on the slope down. So it really comes down to the individual.
Too. Like we're talking about just exercise, but family, work, relationships, turmoil, whatever.
What I think is I've gone through this kind of curve of I thought I need to work out every single day because we're told that you should be exercising every day. What I didn't correlate in my mind is that I don't have to gym every day. Just having a nice park walk is maybe your 10,000 steps, whatever. That's your activity for the day in terms of as far as body is concerned, right? So previously I thought, okay, I need to, do like a HIIT exercise, whatever. I need to do it every day for my body. And so as I've gone through this journey of learning more about, muscle building, what's good for you as you age and the cardiovascular health. So just understanding that, again, what am I training for? So if I personally am training for health and longevity, doing too much is bad. So I know a lot of people that are really hardcore people and they just want to push the limits always, like lift heavier, train more, run faster, do more marathons. And I resonate with that. Like I can kind of have that type of personality, but then I realized if my ultimate goal is health and longevity and not like showing records to somebody or myself or racking up medals, whatever, but it's that, then I need to take a completely different approach, which is, do strength training twice a week, do maybe a long run once a week, then do some Pilates and yoga in the middle, whatever, to rest, right? Something like that, for example, personally. So once more, it's about what are you after and why are you doing what you're doing? It's like having clarity, also in coaching, having clarity on what you want, what you're after, where you're at, and who you are is the starting point for everything.
Yeah. And I think that establishing that starting point is really important, because some people will say like 117 kilometers a week. They haven't run for the past, say, 25 years since school. And now suddenly they're like, cool, okay, I feel like I want to get involved. I'm going to start doing 117 kilometers a week. The recovery window between those workouts is not enough for them because their training age, which is a term that we use a lot, is not high enough where the running is so stressful off the back of that particular workout, they can't bounce back quick enough. But someone like CARMICHAEL and the elites, the running isn't that stressful anymore because their body has become so well adapted to the forces that it is absorbing. They're able to do those 117 kilometers a week and also off the back of that perform. Whereas other people try it and they just break. So it's being able to also build yourself up to a point and look at the backstory.
Yeah.
Like someone
it took
yourself.
me time to even get to this. That was my biggest week, right?
No one likes looking at the journey.
No.
Like, I want to be like that guy. I want to see that, but they ignore. It was I can't remember who said it, but it took me 20 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah, like Picasso that drew on a napkin for a lady and was like, that's 10 million. She's like, what? It took you 5 minutes. He's like, yeah, but it took me 30 years to be this good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it's that principle of the body take. It needs time to adapt to these things.
Yeah. Time in the market, not timing the market.
I mean, people's minds are always going to take over, aren't they? It's like, how you train, what you want to do, how it makes you feel. So if you're going to go into the gym and be like, I have to do my session today, but then it's going to muck up my work schedule, it's going to muck up when I get home, if I get home on time, and it creates extra stress for you. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? If you're going to go and do that workout and you feel better for it because of the endorphins and it makes your day feel better, do it. We do know exercise is good for you. There's no doubt about that, right? And obviously we can be hard on people that overtrain, we can be hard on people that undertrain, but at the end of the day, if you put a pressure on yourself that I do a session every day, I have to do it, but then fitting that session is actually going to create more stress for you, why would you do it? You know what I mean? But if it's going to give you that buzz, make you feel better, you have the right to do that. Even if you did 2 the day before, if you did 1 the day after, you still, if that's going to give you a better day, go and do it.
Finding
do you know
that
what I mean?
sweet spot, yeah.
And even professional, like even when you get an injury and someone comes in and gives you advice, right, and says, this is what you need to do to get over that injury, I want you to do that. Some people will listen, some people won't.
Yeah, it might have worked for them.
Because of that buzz, right? So at the end of the day, I think, we know exercise is good for you, and how your mind works and how you do it with exercise is going to dictate a lot of what's going on in your routine.
So when you run, what is your mental speech? What is your exercise, your tools in a toolbox that you help yourself when you are struggling physically in the runs? Or
at the moment it's so easy, right? My motivation, because we're building a school in Ethiopia, right? So it's like I know that when I do another marathon, our pockets going up, we're getting more money, we need 100k, like we're on 33k, whatever. So that is good running through my head, and it's for a family friend who died of cancer, and I mean the motivation is just
strong
all
purpose,
streaming through,
strong reason why you're running.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say me and my brother have a little bit of a rivalry. He's a good runner, he's older than me, he's faster than me, and so So I know what his 5K time is, I know what his 10K time is, I know what his half marathon time is. So
competition.
If I could get, a little bit, do you know what I mean? I'd say, he's more competitive than me, definitely, I'd say. But I do have that.
He'd say the same.
Yeah, but I still kind of have that in my head a little bit with times and stuff and seeing where I can go. But I think in terms of the journey and like the 9, and then me saying I'm going to do it at the start, and my mum going, no, you're not. Why are you doing that? Like, your job is physical. You go in and teach sessions. If you have an injury, you can't work. Like, where's your bill? How are you going to pay your bills? Do you know what I mean? So, and obviously you talked about that, right? Obviously your parents looking out for you, being a bit risk averse and being like thinking about that. So you've got to kind of go over that and be like, no, I want to do this because the life goal that I've got in terms of the charity and stuff like that is more important to me. And I think, I think I physically can do this. So 6 in, 3 to go, we're still moving. Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
I'm hoping I do find the line. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's been times along the way where I've been like, am I doing the right thing here? And everyone, and like telling people about it, and they're like, are you going through a crisis or something? Why are you doing something? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, that the motivation is that at the moment. Every time I step out and I run. But the mental strength of carrying on, yeah, that's an interesting one, and I do feel like I've done a lot of running with people, marathons, friends come and done them with me as well. That is a huge motivation to have like your community and your people close to you that are also into it. And for instance, the Snowdonia Trail Marathon I did with my mate Rich, it was a duo marathon. We only get a time if we cross the line within 20 seconds of each other. And it was his first.
So fun.
It was his first marathon, right? So I was like, dragging him, he was dragging me, and I was telling these lot about it. We ran 18 miles to the bottom of Snowdon, and we climbed it. On the way up, I was a lot stronger. He was dying. I didn't actually know he was dying as much as he was, because at the end he said I was going to step out. I was screaming. There was a couple of times I see it, but he said I might not have been screaming in terms of the sound, but inside I was. Then we got to the top. I couldn't descend. He suddenly found this lease of life. He's like, come on, we got to get back for the football, because it was the same, there's the final. He was like, we got a taxi booked to the bottom. And I was like, okay. But my legs wouldn't have it. My calves wouldn't have it. Do you know what I mean?
So great to do it together.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, like, just that's, again, the whole thing of the buzz of running at the moment, and so many people being into it, that you've got mates that are doing it. You've got like these communities and stuff like that. They motivate me as much, and seeing them do something they haven't done before, and seeing them progress makes me as happy as seeing myself progress, right? It's because people around you. So yeah, definitely.
Obviously, the reason why I'm asking this is so that everyone that is at some point going to stretch their comfort zone, whatever that is, whether it's 5K, running their 5K, or whether doing running, regularly, or doing their marathon or ultra, God knows what. It's everyone always hits that moment of, okay, I have no more gas in the tank. I want to stop, but you also don't want to stop. So that's why I'm gathering, intel from you guys, what helps you. So obviously identity is a very big one, and I definitely agree to that. Community is another one, specific purpose is another one. What else did we say?
And just the mantras, like
the mantras. So the affirmation. So the inner dialogue. Inner dialogue. So all of these things are really important, and I think it's good to think about those things prior, like what are going to be my tools, what are going to be, my weapons when I need the most. I'm reading now the second book of Goggins, and it's quite interesting. He was talking about using the negative emotions as your fuel. So for example, the haters, he's got a lot, the haters, the comments, the racist comments, whatever it is, the anger that you are experiencing, he says that he, for example, bottles it in and he saves it for those moments that he needs it. And then he just recycles that energy into, raw power. And that was very interesting, because I hadn't heard that before. I don't necessarily agree or would do that personally myself, but it was, but it was very interesting, because now that I know about it, one day I might need that, and then I can do it, So that's why I want to hear from you guys. Is there anything else that comes to your mind that has, whenever you were in a tough patch, that you did that really helped you?
Sorry, just personally, I think we always assume that we'll have that confidence in the moment when we need it, but confidence only comes from experience. That's why we train. That's why you're going out on those long runs, is to build your not only body but your mind up to the idea of like, I'm just going to stretch it a little bit, stretch it a bit more. And on that day, you've gone, I've done so many 10Ks, or I've done 18 kilometers. I'm only just doing 20. I've only got 6 more to go. Yeah. That confidence is built off the back of thousands and thousands and thousands of little tiny confidence boosters. Mm-hmm. And so I think that this confidence that's not built off experience is very fragile. So some people get into those circumstances, they're completely over their head, thought it was going to be easy, and suddenly it's not. Their reality is shattered, and they kind of go, whoa, they're going to crumble.
Good point.
So I think that if you are wanting to do something hard, do something just hard enough to build up to then doing that big thing.
Yeah.
So sustainable steps.
And then I also say, like, it takes the same emotion to feel bad for yourself as it does good, right? So sometimes on my long run, one time I was like feeling sorry for myself, right? And I was like, don't feel sorry for yourself, feel strong for yourself, right? And I was like, that just shifted my whole mindset when I was like finishing the long run, right?
What do you mean?
Like, I was just like, oh man, woe, it's me, like, dang, like, man, you have to finish this. And I'm like, no, like you were saying, like, you get to finish this, or like, oh, you can do it, like encouraging yourself. So like the inner dialogue, but also just thinking about it, like energy is the same, right? If it takes you, like,
you mean the energy expenditure that you need to use in order to think one way or another is the same.
Is the
so
same.
You might as well
think
do
positive.
something that's beneficial to your goal and performance. Yeah.
So it's like that's what I was saying. Like, don't feel sorry for yourself. Feel strong for yourself.
Exactly.
That's the thing, you know.
And I guess this ultimately goes down to, like you were saying, the training, the physical training. There's also the mental training. So what is the regular work that we all do on our day-to-day, weekly, daily, hopefully not less, on our mind? So how are we proactively taking steps to be aware and dissect the way that we behave, the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we react in different situations, and check whether that's beneficial with the identity of who you want to be and show up in the world as, to our goals that we want to achieve? Like, how many people do you know that do this on the regular, that they do this, whatever, self-coaching, they do these practices, and they have a learning and improving curriculum for their mind?
Yeah, I think it's critical.
Yeah, I think it's critical, but I think there's also a certain privilege in being able to do that, because sometimes life happens so quick that you just, for example, being a parent, I can't imagine being a single parent and also having to work too, and also having to do this and meditate and eat well.
Yeah, it's quite.
And also potentially not being in a circumstance where you can save money to one side. It's very hard for some people to sort of zoom out of their own situation and then factor in how they can be their best self.
Yeah.
I think so, like, being able to do that shows a certain purpose. And being able to do it, I accept that privilege. We can sit down one day and be like, cool, we're just going to take a day off work. And we're going to do a little bit of physical activity. I'm going to work on my mind. But in order to stress anything, the mind is stressed. So getting up in the morning when you don't want to, that is in itself a learning experience. Your brain is then going to rewire well, you did it. Being able to wind your emotions in when you really want to go at someone for something, that's showing restraint, and that is in itself a stress. So there's a book called Do Hard Things Again by Steve Magnus, talking about like what it is to do hard things, and sometimes it is not reacting to a certain thing. That showing that restraint is overriding a natural response, which shows a cognitive stressor at the end of the day.
So what you just said, I was just picturing, those scenarios. And I think there is an aspect of what is the lens that you're seeing it through. So what is your predominant mindset type? Because, a person is going to wake up in the morning, several times, and they're going to go about their day being like, ugh, let's wake up again today. I hated it. Why is my life like this? Why do I need to wake up so early? And there's going to be a person that's going to be like, oh, this was hard, but nice. Like, good that I did this. Well done, me. The same action, same perhaps even cognitive sequence, but a very different attitude and therefore a very different life experience. And I dare say also even physicality changes, because depending on how you feel, your chemistry, your body chemistry changes. So I feel like the mindset is a lens through which you see your life and through which you experience your life. And making that, working on that, becoming aware of that is a priority generally in life, because the lens through which you see your life will influence absolutely everything. Your sport, your health, your fitness, your relationships, your money, your purpose, everything. And so I think no matter how fast life comes at you, if you're quite literally not literally firefighting 24/7, you have to make time for that. You have to be aware that that is something that is so important in your life that you have to make time for that.
I think, do you know what? I think we are quite big creatures of habit.
Definitely.
And, you know, when I had my, like, bit of tough time at work, like, a little bit of a burnout, like, one thing that I know that helped me was that when my mind was telling me that I shouldn't be doing something that I used to love or I do love, right? I knew that doing that and just getting over that hurdle, that it wasn't going to be as bad as I might have, my mind might have been saying, right? And every time I did it, I felt better for it. So I always said to myself, did I love this before? Did I, you know, for instance, like if you're talking about something like social anxiety, like was I social before? Did I love parties and stuff like that? And now my mind's telling me I don't want to do that. What's going to happen if I go and do that? I might not want to do it at the start, but then when I go there, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then I've trained my mind again to go, actually, I'm good at this. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm doing what I love, because I do love this, because I know that I've loved this. It's given me a buzz in the past. Do you know what I mean? So again, for the running, like as you were saying, when you wake up, what do you look forward to? There'll be a lot of people that wake up, might not want to get out of bed, but looking forward to that run because they love running and because they love the feeling that running gives them at the end of it, right? So that is where it can be very positive. Do you know what I mean? And then you can build off that. And we talk about identity. You can create an identity through running, becoming better at it, going for your time, and that's all for you at the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like,
a person that takes challenges and that sees things through, even if it's like
it doesn't have to be
run.
external. It doesn't have to be like what someone else doing, or am I doing it against that person, you know, on social media or whatever. It can be all you in there, and you've suddenly just built something out of your life from this exercise that you didn't know you could have, right? And it's making you feel good at the same time, because work isn't fun, and I'm not enjoying that, but I am enjoying that, you know? So yeah, I think that's where it's powerful. If we're going to running itself and what you can do and how you can make it positive, that is where it's really, really powerful for the mind.
I really like what you said there, because you basically told us that it's very useful to, in the moments when the doubt comes in, you base yourself of previous history of facts. You're like, okay, I see what you're saying. I shouldn't be doing this. This is bad. But wait a second. What do the facts say though? So in the moment, you know, this inner voice that might be unchecked for most people, it might just be saying whatever it's saying, and then you're like, but actually, wait a second though, I did this, I did that, and the previously that has meant that I felt good, and there was, you know, an achievement here, and etc., etc. So I'm not gonna listen to you, the momentarily moment of weakness, doubt voice. I'm gonna actually base myself on something much more solid, which is my experience.
Yeah,
nice.
And that was it. And that was getting through it as well. Just knowing that when I did do that, and I did go out and do these things, and 1
+ 1 is 2.
Exactly.
Not
like,
whatever the voice is telling you in the moment.
I felt better for it. You know what I mean? And I came out the other side as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, that is powerful, and that is where mindset does come in, right? And I think from there, because you do have to look quite deep if you're going through something, a lot of self-awareness comes from that as well, because you're always feeling about how you feel, right? It's like, I don't feel as good today as I felt yesterday, so why am I feeling like that? You look into it, you do a bit more research, and then when you come to a situation where you've got to control yourself, you're like, oh, I've done this work already. Like I'm self-aware, so I know that I'm not going to react in that way. I'm going to do this. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's you know, tough spots in your life can elevate you in terms of that self-awareness as well.
And you know what? It really is about training. It's about going through these moments in your life day to day. You know, you're overcoming yourself. Maybe you're not reacting. You're doing all this work so that when the big shit hits, like when you're running a marathon, when you're having one of those arguments like of a lifetime, you know, when you're, you know, pitching your company for that one, whatever it is, so that under the stress situations, you're ready. Like your mental game is strong enough. You've trained that inner voice before in all those smaller challenges. So in that moment when it's really the moment, it won't fail.
And your question that you asked me has come to my head now just from talking. It's you know, as you're running, this is hurting, but what else have I been through? And how much did that hurt? And did I get over that? Yes, I did. So I can get over this now, right? So you can pan back to those moments in your life where you had tough spots. And I do talk about that actually when I teach the runs. It's like, I say, go back to that first time you stepped on the treadmill. Like, do you know what I mean? Where you were then, like the first time I did, you know, good cop, bad cop. You know what I'm saying? Like, in terms of that, you know, where you were there, where you are now, you know what I mean? And where you can still going forward.
So we're kind of like revolving around is also you've got to have a mentor in place in order to sort of help you understand what is needed and also how to self-regulate yourself. Sometimes we get into this path where we have to go out on our shield every day. It's go hard or go home. Well, actually, my role as a coach is ultimately to do myself out of a job where the person is self-sustaining, where they can make their own decisions, they can read their data efficiently, they can go, okay, I'm feeling I don't feel good today. Doesn't mean I can't do anything. It just means I'm going to pull back on something, intensity, volume, whatever it might be, but I can still get it done. And being able to sort of, with this business, or whether it's training or like going off and doing something kind of, you always generally seek a mentor. But I think with running, there's this, historically, you're either part of a traditional run club and you then have to go and wear a vest and you then got to be part of the club and you then got to race 3 times a year and or it's you go away and do it by yourself in a corner somewhere and no one gets to hear about it. Then we're finally getting to this point where people can be a bit more nomadic and go between these different places and explore what it is. But like in a biased sense, no one's educating people on the sort of micro details of what it is to push this or look after it in a sustainable manner. So the mentoree part, I think, is really important, that we probably would naturally think about in other areas of our life, but not when it comes to fitness and sport.
And also, like, conversations like this are so important, like being open about it and how it makes you feel, right? Because, so for instance, I did a run the other day. The hybrids, was it?
Maybe I think I was.
Yeah, so that hybrid, we say the best of both, like a hybrid car. And the analogy that I was bringing was that a hybrid car is half electricity, half gas, right? And the electricity in this instant, I want it to be your mind, and the gas, I want it to be your body. Okay, and you got to believe that when you run out of gas, that your mind can take you that extra step. Or for instance, if your mind is struggling, you've got to believe that the hard work you've put in terms of your training, that your body can take you there, right? And and just what I wish I'd done, which I didn't, and probably it's something I'll do next time, is I wish that I took everyone, at the end of the session, got everyone off the treadmill and said, when I said that to you, what did you think? Like what when I said the electricity is your mind and the gas is your body, what were you thinking? What went through your mind there? What got you through that interval? What were you saying? And I bet everyone would have different answers, but it'd be so interesting to hear what they said. And that's what I don't think we do enough. It's like reflecting on it. Do you know what I mean? Coming off and going, when he did say that, what did I think? And why did I think that? And why did I say that? And
Where
how
did
am I
it come
going
from?
How am I going to apply that to my next run and me getting over that? How am I going to do that again? Do you know what I mean? And that is, I think reflection is like really important and like, you know, we don't do it. I don't think we do it enough. I think we just kind of do it onto the next one. You know,
we're getting told all the time that we're not performing well, or we are performing well. We're relying on external feedback much more than we are trusting our internal feedback.
And that's obviously where I think with our coaching as well, where we can take it to a whole dimension with the like mindset side of things, right? And bringing that in of being like, I'm not just going to tell you the number, I'm also going to say, you know, how is it making you feeling, or give you something, a story, something that's going to motivate you based on a life experience, or something a little bit more, you could say, spiritual. Do you know what I mean? And it just, I think, opens up people's mind toward exercise, right? Because it's an important part of it, man.
What you said, super spot on, the reflection time. So that's why when you were saying that you run without headphones, I can resonate with you a lot there, because what happens in that time, like I run for an hour. and I run around this park and I don't have music, I don't have podcasts. And I do that when I know that I have a lot on my mind. So that 1 hour is literally 1 hour that it's not the same as meditation, it's different, but still I have 1 hour to think things through, for let them to surface, to just process things. So spot on, the quiet time, the downtime, the reflection time is crucial for any sort of progress in anything. You know, business, fitness, relationships. So if we don't bake that time in, we don't make that time for us, we're always in a loop of action, more performance, more action, do this, now do this, infinite to-do list. What is life? Is life the constant action? Is it reflection? Probably a bit of both. And they're the ones that, when married together, create that full-fledged life experience. For example, on Sundays, I like to keep Sundays for myself, like avoid meeting other people, because that's going to be my full reflection day, wind down, take care of my body, do something nice, prep for myself, and then prep for the next week. And anytime I actually do that, amazing. I feel so ready for the next week. Like I know what I need to do. I know, and I want to do. I am full of that energy because I had the downtime. So yeah.
And they say comparison is the thief of joy, right? And there's method in that, you know what I mean? And it's easier said than done not to compare yourself, because we are in a world of comparison, like everything. Do you know what I mean? Especially when it comes to online stuff and social media, do you know what I mean? But for you to be able to just sit back and go, I've come from a different place to this person, but I'm doing good for what I'm doing and where I've come from, that can again push you on to the next one. So I think it's so important just to always keep coming back and just being like, get away from the comparison, look at where I've come, my journey, what I had to deal with in the past, what I'm dealing with now, and what I'm, you know, where I'm going with that. So,
yeah, because it's ultimately your own journey.
Yeah.
You need to run. Okay, let's we can wrap up with the last question. So guys, this has been absolutely amazing, and I know we could literally go on for another 3 hours, but what would you, I don't know, how long has it been?
Quarter full.
So if you could give one message or share something that you think would be very useful for anyone watching that loves running, that wants to get into running, that wants to better their performance, what is that thing that you'd like to share?
Focus on getting 2% better every day, the small steps. So make sure, do more than what's asked of you, but make sure it's sustainable. Like push yourself, but make sure it's something you can do every single day.
Me? I mean, for me, yeah, it's just find the love for it. So don't push out too hard out of the blocks. You know, find what works for you, whether it's not using headphones, being in nature, going at a slow pace, build yourself into it, find that love. And then, you know, from there, just kind of see where you want to go with it. You know, it might just be that you want to always do long runs in nature. It might be that you want to better your times and go in a race, get the buzz off the crowd. It might be that your friends and family are coming down to watch you in an event. You know, start there and then just build up for it. It's all about that love. If you don't have that for it, it's not going to be the same experience for you. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, annoyingly, with all this stuff, it's for me, it kind of comes down to why you're doing it. Because if you don't have to run, that's the key thing. I think we're sort of looking at all this stuff and going, oh man, I need to get out there, because if I'm not running, I'm not part of this world. There's many more things out there. There's cycling communities, there's rucking communities you can do, boxing communities. There's so many different things you can do that have the same health benefits, the same outcomes. But if running is the thing that you go and choose to do, why? Is it that you've only got that spot in the London Marathon that you weren't anticipating? Cool, you're going to have to come up with a reason why. Or if you've booked into a charity, like we said before, like that's ultimately what you're looking to do with it, is raise money. I see running as a vessel for what you want to achieve. If it's just getting out there consistently and having a little bit of time to yourself because there's no other way of doing exercise, great, like do that. If you really want to push yourself and see what you're capable of, great, do that. But there's some really beautiful things you can get from exercise, especially from running. But you have to want to do it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it, great, do something else that you do want to do.
Yeah.
Find what you want to do.
Love it. Love it. I guess from my side, if I had to say something, I just say if you haven't tried, then definitely test it out. And I'm leaning towards that as well. Like, just do it if you love it. Just do it if you enjoy it. I love it. I enjoy it now. Beginning, it wasn't like that. I couldn't even run 1 kilometer. I was out of my breath. I was like, what is this vile torture is what I was thinking. But as we were saying, you just get used to it and you get better.
But your mind said you can't do the half marathon. But what came out was that, yeah, why not? I'm going to give it a go. So
exactly. And work on your
part of
mindset.
it, right?
Always,
Yeah.
always. Mindset is the key. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Hello friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and share it with someone. I would love to hear your feedback and suggestions as to what guests you would like to see on the show next. See you next week.